This book made me so angry at some of the characters. I felt like entering inside there and beating them up. When you're reading something like you're so angry, like you feel like you know this character, let me just enter them and just beat somebody. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? So today I'll be sharing 10 Francine Rivers books that I really highly recommend. Well, technically 9 because one is a 2-part book. So the first book I have here is Martha's Legacy series. This is a 2-part book. Yeah, so the first part of the book is her mother's hope. I hope you can see this clearly. And then the second part is her daughter's dream. Yeah, her mother's hope and her daughter's dream. So this is a 2-part book. So the story in this book was around the early 1900s to the 1950s era in Switzerland. The protagonist here was a girl named Martha. She basically grew up in a home where in those early days they think training a woman in school was a waste. So it's better for a woman to learn how to be domesticated, get married, raise fine children. But then Martha was too ambitious. She wanted more out of life, so she left home at a very early age. Before even leaving home, she had a sister who was really sickly and frail and was coddled so much by their mother. She eventually died when her father forced her to get married, of course. So Martha vowed to raise really strong children, that none of her children would be weak like her sister. But her tough love was misunderstood, especially by her oldest daughter, Rose, which created repercussions that really last for generations. So Rose felt like her mom didn't love her as much as she loved her other siblings. So fast forward to when Rose too grew up, she left home, she became a nurse, and she got married. She then had a daughter called Caroline. Then Rose was then infected with tuberculosis, and you know that tuberculosis is contagious. So when Caroline was around 3 years old or so. So, and despite the hatred, not really hatred, despite, what do I call it now? Okay, despite everything, despite the fact that she didn't want it, they had to call her mom to help watch Caroline while she was on quarantine, because she had to be on quarantine because tuberculosis is actually really contagious. So she had to be on quarantine. So this made Caroline and Martha's bond really grow so well, being that she couldn't let her daughter come near her because of the tuberculosis. So her daughter now felt that her mom didn't love her, that grandma loves her more than her mom does. So in the part 2 of this book, Caroline comes of age during the early 1960s, and even though her mom was fully recovered, they couldn't really build that mom and daughter bond. Caroline still preferred her grandma, Martha. She preferred grandma, she preferred her company, she still tells her stuff even more than she would ever tell her mother. So she went to college, and then a tragedy happens that you find out when you read this book. She disappears to San Francisco to live a life of drugs, sex, all these things. Then 2 years later, she came back home with her own daughter. Familiar tensions arrive when her daughter develops a closer bond with her grandma. Guys, find this book and read it. It's a 2-part book. This is what it looks like. This is the first part, this is the second part. This book filled me with so many emotions, so many emotions that you too you'll be wondering. But this book is wonderful. Francine Rivers is just a wonderful writer. So please find this book. I read it. So much chaos. Sorry guys. So the second book I have here is my absolute favorite Francine Rivers book, Give Me Love. Guys, this is a powerful retelling of the story of Gomer and Hosea in the Bible. It was told around in 1850s, a time when men sold their souls for a bag of gold and women sold their bodies for a place to sleep. So the protagonist here is a girl named Angel. She was sold into prostitution as a child. She expects nothing from men but betrayal, and then she survives by keeping her hatred alive, like the hate for men. Then she meets Michael Hosea, a man who seeks God's heart and everything. Hosea obeys God to marry an angel and to love her unconditionally. Of course, she hates God. She hates men, so she definitely refused him so many times. But slowly, day by day, he defies her every bitter expectations, and despite her resistance, her heart begins to soften. But then, with this unexpected softening comes an overwhelming feeling of unworthiness. Do I even deserve this? And fear. Then she runs back. She runs back into prostitution. She runs away. She left the house and ran. Like, she doesn't deserve this kind of love. Like, how can somebody basically love you despite your past, despite being a prostitute? Is that even possible? How can God tell somebody to come and marry a prostitute? You understand that? If you've read the book of Hosea in the Bible, you understand this story. This is just a perfect retelling of the story. It makes you understand it in a different light. So she runs away from her husband's love. But then her final healing, basically, from what I gathered in this book, my final healing must come from the one who really loves her more than anyone else, which is God. The one that will really make her understand that she's not worthless despite anything. So redeeming love is a life-changing story of God's unconditional, redemptive, and unconsuming love. Guys, please find this book, read this book, and guys, this is my favorite Francine Rivers books, my really favorite Francine Rivers book. So find this book and read this book, and I promise you won't regret it. Yeah. So the third book I have here is Leota's Garden. Guys, this book made me so angry at some of the characters. I felt like entering inside there and beating them up. Cause what? This book, I cannot even describe the emotions. You know when you're reading something like you're so angry, like you feel like you know this character, let me just enter them and just beat somebody. That's how I felt when I was reading this book, this particular book. So in this book, it's about a lady, Leota. She got married to the love of her life, and then he was drafted into the army some years later when they had 2 children. Then he came back and he wasn't the same man that left, literally. He couldn't keep a job, so Leota had to cover up. She works and give her husband the money to take care of everything. So basically everybody thought it was her husband that was working, including his parents, because his parents were staying with her. So because she had to work double jobs, she always left her children with her mother-in-law. Now her mother-in-law really annoyed me, because she was telling the children how their mom doesn't have time for them, how she doesn't care about them. She's always going out and working and spending her money on only herself, and they grew up with that thought. Then years later, they're both grown with their families and they care less about their mother, because to them she didn't care about them when they were growing up. They hardly even call, they don't visit. Now Leota is 84 and close to the grave, and the only thing she's thinking about, she needs, is reconciliation with her children. How will she do this when they don't even call her, they don't even visit her, they don't even let her visit? Guys, this book made me so angry. It made me so angry that I didn't even I knew those children, I could have given them a dirty slap. Guys, this book was so filled with so many emotions, because even if your mom did something wrong, even if she did something wrong when you guys were little, guys, even though she's your mother, I don't know if it's just me, but then the emotions that I got from this particular book, guys, I was angry, so angry at them. Like, even when she died, guys, let me not talk to me, let me not spoil it. Just find Leota's Garden and read it. It's not so much now. Find it and read it. You can even read the ebook, but then read it and take me later. Thank you. So the next book I have here is Linage of Grace. These are really just short stories of some women in the Bible: Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. They're just really wonderful short stories, perfect for personal study or group discussion. So if you want more insight on the women of the Bible, some of the women in the Bible, this is a really short stories of all of them. So it's really interesting to read. So find Linage of Grace and read it. Thank you. So the next book I have here is The Last Iter. The Last Iter. This is the first ever Francine Rivers book I ever read. Like the first book of Francine Rivers I ever read. Someone gave it to me, then I had to buy mine, and then that's when I started buying other Francine Rivers books. So the story is around the mid 1850s. Scene eaters were common in the early 19th century. I hope I can remember, in England and in the lowlands of Scotland and all those stuffs. This custom was carried over by immigrants to America and practiced in the remote areas of, did they say is the Appalachian Mountains? I hope I'm making sense. So the scene eater is a person who was paid a price or given food to take upon himself the sins of a dead person before they are buried. And how? Anyway, it's fiction. So because I was wondering, what does that even mean? Anyway, and then no one is supposed to, based on the story, no one is supposed to look at him. He lives on exile and is only sicked out when someone dies. Then Caddy Forbes, the protagonist in the book, looked at him when he came to eat the sins of her grandma before she was buried. Guys, let me stop here. Look for this book and know what happened next, because this story, lovely. So the next book I have here, Bridge to Heaven. This is another book that made me so angry at this time at the protagonist. I forgot it was fiction. The protagonist in this one was a girl named Abra. She was born and abandoned on a bridge by her mother. Yeah, but then she was found by a reverend who took her home. Basically, after a few years, his wife died, so he couldn't keep her, and he had to give her up to another family who was looking to adopt another child. To cut the long story short, she left home one day because she felt she wasn't loved enough like the other people. They loved their children, their daughter, because they had only one daughter. They loved their daughter much more than they loved her. So she left home, ran away with one boy, and burnt her bridges. She said she was not coming back. She ran. She became a star eventually because she always wanted to be a movie star. She became a star, but at a very high cost. Can she come back to the ones that truly love her after burning her bridges? Find out for yourself when you buy this book and you read this book. So many emotions. That's what Francine Rivers books literally gives you, from anger to sorrow to care to just so many things. So find this book and read this book. Find all these books and read this book and thank me later. So the next book I have here is Atonement Child. I hope you can see this clearly. The protagonist here, Diana, was a wonderful girl. She has a wonderful life, engaged to a wonderful man, and the daughter of doting parents. Faithful child of God. She basically has it all. But one day, tragedy happened. She was raped, and her whole world was shattered, basically. She got pregnant as a result of the rape, which destroyed all her future plans. Her fiancé left. He said he couldn't carry on with the marriage. Why? Because she's pregnant for someone else. And then the thing that even caused issues for them was because, okay, he told her, we know that you were raped, so abort it. But she refused. That the confusion of aborting the child or keeping it and all these things. So as these family foundations around her shifts and crumble, her faith is pushed to the limit. She's torn between removing the unwanted pregnancy and committing another sin, basically, or keeping it and putting a dent on her future. Guys, find this particular book. It's just soft, subtle, like, I don't know how to explain it, but that's just the overview of what the story is. Just find this book. Find this particular book. I know I've said this for all the books, but all of them are really nice. So find Atonement Child and read it and then see what happens. So the next book I have here is the Scallet Tre. You see this particular book, I can't put it into words. Like, trying to do that to be simply not doing justice to this book. That is how wonderful this book is. Just find it and read it and tell me later. The Scallet Tre. You can see it very clearly. Yeah. Then the last book I have here, guys, and the Shur Blue. I hope I'm getting it right. And the Shur Blue. So This is another blue. Oh Jesus! This is another book that blew my mind. It made me happy. It made me angry. Different emotions. Like, have you ever read a book and you take up the role of one of the characters, and you literally feel their pain? Like, you literally feel like beating someone inside. Like, I've been wanting to beat someone up for a while. You literally feel like beating someone inside this book up. That's how this book made me feel. When a man of God forgets his source or where he started, why? Because he has a vastly growing congregation and he thinks it's by his power and his ability to speak plenty English. He neglects his wife and son, and his only focus is the church and how to make the elite and the people there happy. Please read this book. Me, I was already saying I can never forgive you because of what happened in this book. But if it was me, well, God's ways are not our ways. God said forgive 70 times, 70 times. But me, as I was reading it already, in my mind I was like, I can't, if it's me, I can never ever I can never ever forgive. But please, guys, get this book and read it and check me later. So I hope you all enjoyed this compilation. Let me know which one you read, which one you're going to read in the comments. I'll leave the links to all the books in the description box. The links are Amazon links, but I get my books from Lantern Books, Roving Heights, Vogue Bookstore, and some other vendors on Instagram. So let me know if you want me to drop their links. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe our videos if you have not. Subscribe to our channels. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Thank you. Bye. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah.